Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I am Sandra Intansari from 5G class. In this video, I would like to review a research article to fulfill my evaluasi pembelajaran bahasa Inggris assignment with its title, Using Rubrics as an Instructional Tool in EFL Writing Courses, which is conducted by two great researchers, namely Fehmi Turgut and Mnaisi Kayaglu. Okay, let's start from the first discussion. It's about the research question. This research was conducted to answer the following questions as follows. 1. Does the integration of rubrics into the writing course as an instructional tool have any effect on students' performance? And 2. Can students be liberated from the narrow perception of writing based on the notion of correct grammar? And last research question is, do rubrics have potential for teachers to make their writing course more productive article structure? Then the second discussion is the data collection. The researcher was using a syllabus and a writing course book with 4 hours of writing course a week. So the meeting could be twice a week, which was followed by both control and experimental groups. The researcher implemented the treatment lasted for 4 weeks, in which both experimental and control groups were instructed on 2 different essay types. The experimental group received treatment on using a rubric for producing their work, while the students in the control group continued their class without being taught the rubric. In the first week of treatment, the students were taught a clear explanation of words and expression used in the rubric. They were given exemplary sample works of rubric which is written by professional writers and asked them to analyze it to pave the way for a discussion and interaction between teacher and students. The analysis session was done in students' mother tongue. Also, students were provided with a list of topics to choose for pre-writing activities. Finally, at the end of the first week, students were assigned to write the first draft on the topic chosen in the target essay type. Then, in the second week, the course began with the analysis of the students' first draft of writing assignment. It was done by peer feedback session. It was like we have a partner and we just exchange our works. Then we try to give feedback of our works each other. After that, the drafts were collected and the teacher gave feedback on it in order to students revise their drafts, and finally students were assigned to write the final draft of their essay. Then in the third week, the first lesson of the week, both groups were instructed on the general outline and the language of the compare and contrast essay. In the second lesson of the week, a perfect model of the compare and contrast essay was introduced to the students. Then, at the end of the class, students were assigned to write their first draft for the compare and contrast essay type. Again, the students were analyzed their works in pairs. Then, the last week of the treatment, students was taught about cause and effect essay. At the end of the treatment, students in both experimental and control groups took an exam for the compare and contrast essays. After the exam, the students in the experimental group were asked to reflect their studies in relation to the use of rubrics. And at the end of the treatment, both groups submitted a compare-contrast paper. Following with 10 students from the experimental group volunteered to have interview individually to measure the students' development change in their writing performance in connection with the components, content, organization, vocabulary, language use, and mechanics identified into the rubric. All the data collection above were collected through the essays work, including the exam, and ended with interview. Moreover, all the data were evaluated by 3 independent writers using the same rubric to ensure reliable results. Next one is the data analysis of the research. In order to get more comprehensive, valid, reliable, and objective results, the researchers used 2 approaches to analyze the data collected, namely qualitative data analysis and quantitative data analysis. The researchers use quantitative data analysis in order to see the interreliability of the scores given by the three raters to the compare and contrast essays. An ANOVA test was used to analyze the raters for the control and experimental groups separately, and a t-test was also used to assess whether the means of the two groups were statistically different from each other. Furthermore, the researcher used qualitative data analysis to evaluate the interview result, content, organization, vocabulary, and language use and mechanics. The third discussion is the findings. The findings revealed that students who received the rubric outperformed the students in the control group. The answer for the first research question is the analysis of the students' interviews proved that integration of the rubrics into the course initially somewhat challenging, but however it helped the students appreciate the qualities of good writing and then utilize appropriate strategies to achieve them in their own writing. The second research question resulted that students feel they would be able to produce better pieces of writing in English when the teaching process was having implemented by the rubric treatment. It is, however, hard to say that the use of rubrics in this research liberated students from the burdensome specter of the teacher's authority, since the traditional product-oriented approach to writing in the EFL setting appeared to transmit fixed cultural and linguistic behavior. However, students were liberated from the narrow perception of writing based on the notion of correct grammar. For the last research question, its result is that there was a statistically significant difference between the two groups in a sense that the experimental group outperformed the control group in writing composition papers. This obviously indicates that rubrics have potential for teachers to make their writing courses more productive. Okay, the last discussion is about the research gap. Based on this research, all the discussion on the literature was about the rubrics. However, the essay types used will also need to be discussed since it were used for improving students' writing comprehension, whether the notion or how the essay types can affect students' writing performance, and even how the relation between this essay type chosen and the rubrics can work well. It is important for the next research to add more and more theoretical literature to make readers believe that this research is comprehensive and based on either the theory or the previous research. So it could be the theoretical gap in this research. That is all that I can deliver in this video. For all the mistakes and said words, I do apologize profusely. Thank you so much for your kind attention. Stay safe and stay healthy. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.